really, I, I haven't, I have like no experience with writing code. If I have to write code, I'm like
Yeah, you
freaking
do.
out.
Yeah, you do. You do it every day. You just don't know it. Check this out. If I have $5 in my wallet, I'll stop at Dunkin' Donuts. If a coffee is $3 and a donut is $1 extra, I will get the coffee and the donut. Else, I won't. That's it. For each dollar in my dollars, I'll spend it if the coffee and donut is this amount. Else, I won't. You do it every day. You just don't write it in code. Let me put
Okay.
another one. Let me put it in another perspective. Another perspective is you wake up in the morning. If my alarm goes off, I'll get up. I'll check the weather. If it's a beautiful sunny day, I'll call off work. Else, I'll go into work. So you'll end up talking like that sort of halfway through this course. And with innovations like ChatGPT, and I know a ton of people are going to just go straight to that and try to just abuse that to turn it in. But this is the difference in this class. I don't care if you use it. You probably won't learn anything if you do use it. If you ask ChatGPT or any GPT or any AI fundamental, very elemental, very uneducated questions, you're going to get those answers back. I've been doing this long enough, and unfortunately long enough to see what ChatGPT gives you back. It's good. It's great. But you can't ask ChatGPT more complex questions to solve more complex riddles of life if you don't know the fundamentals. Like you could say, while using enumerate, and I have this many objects in a list, can you write me a function that does this? And it will. But if you don't know that enumerate exists, you ask it a question and it gives you some code back, but you don't know if it's good or not. You still need to learn how to read code. Like it's detrimental. And that's a perfect segue into my next thing. Everybody ready to review the class layout? Get a good feel for it? I'll turn on edit mode.
Yeah, I'm good for that.
Everybody see my screen? Everybody got it?
Yep.
Shared? Cool.
Yep, you're all good.
So you jump in, you get the announcements. I do not kill you with announcements. Initially, yes, because we're going through the setup phase. Every week, I try to stick to 2 or 3 announcements maximum. There are no surprises in this class. What do I mean by no surprises? Well, let's take a look at the syllabus. The syllabus is pretty common. It's nothing too wild, nothing too tricky. You're going to get all this fun stuff. But you'll notice in the syllabus, nowhere does it say Python. Understanding, concepts, blah, 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 Python's everywhere. Program goals, critical thinking. Python just happens to be the tool we use. Another key thing, focus and master the fundamentals that are covered every lecture or every week. If you start to build on build and you start to jump around to different concepts, you don't really master the fundamentals. And I know I get this a lot where people go, well, I could do it this way. Yes, you can, but do you know how to do it this way first? So the more advanced way will work properly every time. There is a build on build progression. It's very mild, but there is. Critical thinking and effective communication skills. So what does that mean? Email me. If you have a problem, email me. Reach out. I try to get back to you within 24 hours. This is a really fast, short course. Discussion boards go like this. Do the code, submit the code, critique 2 other people's code. Not a critique is, oh, I like your code. That's not a critique. On line 27, I noticed it used a for loop. Interesting. I did not use that. What are the benefits? That's a critique, right? Get into a little detail. 2 or 3 sentences won't kill you. That I like your code that's elementary. You could do that in 4th grade, right? This is big boy, big girl pants, big they, big them, whatever your pronouns are. Literally do the work. It's easy. And I set you up for success in here, because if you're really good at doing my class, you're going to blow away every other class in the whole world. I know this is only 2 credits, but it has the potential to change your life. once you know how to automate something effectively, you could take Python, go to Splunk, Ansible. You could learn Go really fast. You could deploy stuff at AWS. You could write Lambda functions. It literally opens a whole new world up for you to automate everything. Scrape websites. You know, how many of you go to a website every day to read something, or Twitter, or like whatever X is, you know? Or what if you wrote a Python bot to scrape all that for you and just give you the synopsis? And if you like the synopsis, you click on the links. You could write your own web crawler. It literally is 6 lines of code. It's not that tough. But basically, you know, it says the syllabus breaks out 300 points, A, B, C, D, E, right? No big deal. Pretty common. Email me, rock and roll. That's it for the syllabus. This is the important part, the calendar. I'm going to download it because we're going to take a look at it in Excel. The calendar, let me see if I can zoom in here or zoom out. Control zoom out. That's cool. So you notice that today's date, week 1, today's date is when we meet. Online lecture, but they're not mandatory. Lessons 0001. That's where we start. Topics covered. I tell you what topics we're going to cover. I move into what material you should cover before class. Read the syllabus, read the calendar, understand some of lesson 1. You don't have to, though. You know, I mean, it helps. It makes class more fun to discuss back and forth. The more topics, lecture, online video, assignments. This week you have, I think, 5. You have a discussion, intro discussion question, group lab, your challenges, individual lab, and a quiz. Every other week after this, you're only going to have 4 things to do. You do not have the introduction question. Every week, you have a group lab, which is a discussion board in the lab. You have an individual lab, a quiz, which they're all open book to include the open book part of the final. It's open book. Download the PDF. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Control F, you're done if you didn't read it. And what we got? Quiz, challenges, individual lab, group lab. 5 and 10 points apiece. It matters because it's only 300 points, but you get the gist of it. It's not too bad. The final is worth a substantial amount of your grade. It's a script and an open book multiple choice exam. Any questions on the calendar? Cool, moving right along. So the calendar breakdown is also underneath calendar and syllabus and week, same thing. Discussion board, like I said, upload your code. Doesn't even have to be complete code, just has to be your interpretation of the group lab. Do it to the best of your ability because the group labs mimic your individual lab. And practice makes perfect, right? So keep that in mind. Let's check out the course lessons really quick. So course 0 walks you through set up a Python. Anything you go to python.org. I'll put this in chat too real quick. Python.org. There's de facto. Python is an open source community language. A lot of people work on it. There's a consortium. Go to downloads. Download for Windows 3.12.4 is the newest one. Rock and roll. If you're a Mac person, you can afford to buy the gold standard. No, I'm just kidding. There's no price on it. It's open source. If you have a Mac or Linux, chances are it's already there. Just go into your shell or command prompt and type Python. Usually it's like just Python, hit enter, and you're in Python right here, you know. Or you may have to type like Py3 or however you installed it, right? But on my machine, it's just I got 3.10 installed. It's the last update I did. Works fine, right? Now, this is the shell. When you install the full package for Windows, you get what's called idle. Idle is an IDE, an integrated scripting development thing, right? A shell. You open it, it looks like this. This is the Python idle shell. It says shell right here in the top left corner. If you go File, New File, you get what looks to be a notepad. right? Now you notice that print is a function in Python, and it's purple. Test is a string, it's green. Black is usually a parameter of a function or some special character. Now, this is what you gain here, because this notepad is where you save all your files and do everything. And you could save it. You could save it to wherever you want. I'll just sort it on my desktop really quick. I'll call it something. It doesn't even matter, really. I'll hit F5, and you could either go run module or press F5. And it'll run your code in the idle shell. You see it just printed test. You'll get used to that. Got a lot of videos to set up just like this, where I half screen. And we'll get more to that, back to that in a minute, right? But python.org is pretty much the de facto standard. When you go into a lesson, we'll go right into lesson 1. Tells you what to complete. Of course, it's the 4 things up top. Now, if you click this little guy right here, the Python with the book, it's a online HTML version of your book. If you click the heading, lesson 1, you get these things. And when you click this, you get this really gross thing, right? Now, if you go back to the lesson, let me hit the breadcrumb, and go back. And you click the first little Python icon under reading, you'll get the PDF for that lesson. 44 pages. Oh my God, it's a lot. You remove white space and pictures, it's less than 11 pages to read. You can do it. I know you can. Tells you a bit about Python's history, gets into downloading it. Right off the rip, you get right into using it. No better way, right? Rip off the Band-Aid. Talks about other editors, PyCharm, VS Code, whatever pick your poison. I teach everything through idle because it's free and it's a standard. VS Code is free too. A little bit more intricate for some beginners. PyCharm is the same way, a little bit more intricate for some beginners. But if you're familiar with those and you want to use them, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
So
Right.
idle's best to use for beginners, right, Zach?
I believe so. It makes you hands-on keyboard. You type it out really easy. There's no pop-ups, nothing to divert your attention. You kind of focus on your code, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
It's really clean. And that's how you get the book. Now, I'm also going to upload the entire PDF for the book and put the announcements after we get offline here. Let me make a note because I don't think I did that yet. Challenges. We're going to talk about them right now. In the announcements, I'm going to jump around here. In the announcements, I have how you should do your challenges right here. They're broken. I just found out they're broken last semester, but I found a fix. Until they fix it on the back end, I found a fix, right? So basically what you do for lesson 1 challenges is you highlight that and copy it. Most of you, especially people who aren't here or don't watch this video or don't read the announcements, are going to do this. They're going to go to course lessons. They're going to click lesson 1. They're going to go down to the challenges and they're going to start hammering away. Click on it. Eventually it'll populate. It's my first time going there with this machine, so. Or maybe it won't even pull it all, right? Let's go to Hello World again. It's not populating. So don't worry, don't fret. In the announcements, we have these links. Open up a new tab in your browser, paste the link. In the announcements, it tells you to change your CSCC username here to your CSCC username. I have a dummy that is Z Whiten. You notice that this says Unit 1, the class you're in. Each class, if you're in a different class, it has a different number. Don't worry. And that's important, I should say. I'm teaching 2 classes at the same time right now. Same meeting, different announcements. This number right here is different for the 2 classes. But once you log in, you get your class, no big deal. Change your CSCC username here to your username. Hit enter. Wait a second. It'll take you right to your challenges. Now you can click and work on them perfectly. The challenges have a little synopsis of what you should be doing, the desired output, and as you read and go through the book, it literally tells you when to go to the challenges. But this says write a script using the print function to get the desired output. Cool. Print, gotta spell it right. Print, open, close. And you'll see me go back and forth on how I type, but that's just me, right? So first off, I'm gonna do it wrong. I'm gonna say hello world with a small h. I'm gonna hit run. And it says, hey man, give it another shot. You didn't match the output. Okay, no big deal. Go back here, I see where I made a mistake. I hit run, I greened it up. Nice job, rock and roll. You hit submit. You could hit save and submit. Submit does both. Submit, cool. Return to your listing. Now you notice that you've submitted one. And now you just work down the entire row. It looks like a lot, but it's really not that bad. If you have a problem with one of them, chances are somebody else does too. And, you know, post a question or shoot me an email and I'll run through it and I'll make a video of it and throw it out in the announcements. But for the most part, lesson one isn't that bad. It takes a little critical thinking skills. A lot of printing, what's a variable. We'll get into that in a minute. But this is how you operate the challenges. Now, from my point of view, see this finally loaded, but it's broke. There's no desired output. And even if I did it here, it wouldn't save it. So that's why I have to use those links that are in the announcements. Not bad, right? And that's about it for challenges. You just got to remember to use the link and change it to your username. Not literally the words your username, but your username. You can laugh. Every semester I have at least 6 people who use your username. It breaks my heart. But moving right along, the individual lab. There'll be a little tiny thing that says, hey, you know, we're going to bake brownies. Here's this, here's that. Write a program that prompts the user, what's your name? Welcome to the brownie calculator. You know, how many brownies would you like? Take their integer input, multiply it by these floats and integers, generate the recipe they desire. Default recipe makes 9. Yep.
Oh my God.
It's not hard. Like I know what you're thinking. What do brownies have to do with Python, or what do brownies have to do with like system administration? Well, what if this was bandwidth and you had X amount of users and you had a certain amount of bandwidth? It's the same thing. You divide it by the number of users by how fat the pipe is, and you get how much baud per NIC people could use. I know what you're thinking, but everybody has gig to desktop. Not necessarily. And especially when you work wireless and saturation and all kinds of stuff, it gets pretty wild. But this is more of an exercise in, do you know how to format floats, and can I really have 6.77777 of an egg? The answer is no. Either choose to round it up, format it properly. Just because you have 0.5 cups of butter and 2 eggs and 1 teaspoon does not mean these will stay whole numbers. You will, towards the end of the lesson, they talk about how to use format, and that's when you learn how to format integers. Either to round up, round down, go 3 deep, go 2 deep, stuff like that. But not all formatting is the same. That's why this is a critical thinking exercise in how to use the tool to format properly, not just to go, how many brownies you want? Okay, here's your 0.679 million egg. It's got to be kind of, use your mind, right? Group activities, you can start on these whatever every week. You can work ahead on them. It's up to you. Like this is a customer goes to a store, asks for 3 items, and 5.5% tax, subtotal, total amount. It's that real basic math, but it's all about how you do it, right? And the quiz, you click on quiz. Seems like a lot, but it's the quiz. The quiz is, I'm really surprised if they take more than 8 minutes. Usually the average time on one of these quizzes is like 7 minutes. Because once you read the book, do the challenges while you read the book, work on the group activity, complete your lab, then knock out the quiz. The quiz is relative. At that point, you've been through the material 4 or 5 times. The quiz is really quick. A lot of people just use the PDF and try to go to the quiz, and they miss easy points. I do it last, personal opinion. And however your schedules are in your life, I know we all have lives like outside of school and work and everything. Keep in mind that everything is due on that calendar. Let's go back to that, because this is important, right? Everything is due on the 17th. What day is the 17th? I gotta look. Next Monday. So next Monday by midnight, everything, you get 7 days to work on everything. I would not, if I were you, I'd download this. I change the dates to a day ahead of time and try to get it done by Sunday, just to give yourself some wiggle room. Try to hack yourself. Give yourself time. If you wait to Monday to knock all this stuff out, you may not get it done. You may run into a snag that you didn't think was there. Plagiarism. Yes, there is plagiarism in code. Don't do it. A lot of folks who are current immigrants to this country or speak English as a second language, they like to share code. Beautiful. Don't. Write your own code. The longest script you're going to write in here is maybe 100 lines. That's shorter than any English paper you're ever going to write. That's shorter than a lot of sentence or rebuttals to a question that you have to answer for an English class or a different type of course. It's not that bad, right? Just remember. And if you cheat in this class, come on. If I have money, I'm going to buy the donut. If not, I won't. Then I'm questioning your daily decisions if you can't code in this course. I'm saying it now and laughing because it's true. It really is. Like, give yourself time to be successful. And let me see what else is in the announcements. So I also have, I recorded all the courses last semester. They're up on YouTube. This is the playlist for that. I'm going to record these and post these as well. So you're going to get a double dose of me, right? And this is the entire thing. Goes right down the line. Feel free to watch these. Feel free. I don't care. That school material doesn't bother me any. Also, you got the greeting, got the challenges, got the Zoom link, got the group activities explained. Important things to remember. These are kind of important for lesson 1. Challenges, I rebuttal the challenges a lot. Course material, how all this works. First day of class, read all the announcements, the challenges again. This is the good part. I've already posted the book for you. The whole book's right here. It's PDF. Download it. I also gave you a template on how I want you to name your script. And it talks about the naming convention right here. But here's the cool thing. You download this, you click on it to download. Boop, downloaded. So I'll just open it in idle. I'll show you how to do that. File, open. I just downloaded it, so downloads. First thing right here, click OK. You notice this is the template. Cool. This is pretty much standard in a lot of things. So right here, the first thing I do, first initial last name. So I'll change that to Z Whiten. We're going to work on lesson number 1, individual lab. I will grab this right here, file, save as. You notice I hit save as. Dump what I just wrote, hit save. Now I have my template, which I could always use, and I have my new lesson 1 individual lab. Awesome. I have a line break, script body, some default variables you could use. But go in here, change this author to your name. Get rid of Tim Smith and me. Change the date to whatever you see fit. Oh man, almost on the dime. Look at that. Why is this header important? Anybody have any idea?
Which one?
Why is this data right here important?
Do you automate our homework grading?
Oh, yeah, on top of that. But why is it important for you or for like the community or with the world at large or GitHub or Git or GitLab or anything? One year, I wrote over 458 scripts to automate a job I had. I named them a bunch of stupid stuff. Shame on me for that. I was young and immature. Over the years, I developed a good naming schema for myself. But if you're in Windows, you have find. If you're in Linux, you have grep and find, right? You could look for matches inside a file name, and you could say how many lines deep you want to read. So you could find what you wrote pretty quickly if you name it something bad. If you fill out the proper header and give it a name and a date, like if you do the date around the date it was, but you didn't know the name of it, you could search for 06/*/2024, hit enter, and it'll come back and give you back everything. It works smarter, not harder, right? Like headers have a reason, and it's awesome for automation, awesome to help you find things. It's an enabler to be successful. But I already gave you a template. So use the damn template, because if you don't use a template, it's going to be really hard because a bunch of people are going to turn in called lab 1. And when I save a bunch of lab 1s, guess what happens? They overwrite each other because they have the same name. So nobody else should have your first name, first initial, last name, right? So you got to think like that too. And you're going to run into these things in real life. So just, fix them. Think smarter, right? But that's basically it for the template and the layout of class, and the challenges is the big thing. If anybody has a question about anything, I tried to lay it all out in the announcements fairly well. Trying to think if I missed anything. Got the book, got the template, got the challenges, whatever. I'm feeling pretty good. But then again, I've done this a lot of times. Any questions on the course layout?
Yeah, could you re-explain the group work, how that works?
Yeah, so I really don't care if you complete the group individual. Let's check out lesson 1, right? Click lesson 1. I go to the group lab. Challenges lab, group activity. There's basically 2 scripts, but you could write 2 sets of code in one script, right? Customer in a store purchases 3 items, write a program that asks for blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. Let's do it. You just want to do it?
Yes.
Let's do it. Cool. So I suggest you read this entire thing first, especially the UR2, because sometimes I put some little zingers in there to help you. And this is supposed to make sure you don't close your window, but I think I already have that in your template, so you don't have to worry about that, right? This is exactly how I code. I gather the requirements. I'll grab the requirements. I'll copy them. I'll go right to the template. You're going to learn this. 3 individual quotes, paste 3 individual quotes. That's a comment. So that means Python will not run that code. I'm just hitting enter here to make it all fit on one.
What's
one
the
screen.
hashtag then?
The hashtag, also known as an octothorpe. That is Latin for 8-pointed object. It is a individual comment. Multi-line comment are 3 individual quotes.
Do I just clumped it all together? The 3 dots,
Yeah.
just one whole quote?
Yeah. This is just one huge comment now, also known as a document string, but basically just one huge comment. Right? Cool stuff. Now, Here's a line break, nothing big deal. This is my script body. This is where I'm going to start scripting. Let's gather the requirements for the first script. A customer in a store is to purchase 3 items. Okay, cool. I like that. Guess what? I'm going to declare some variables. Item 1 equals. Now I'm going to gather input from the user. Now you're going to learn this all in lesson 1, so don't worry. You know, it's in the book. A variable is nothing more than a declaration of an empty bucket. You're actually declaring a part of memory that says, I'm going to hold this. And I'll show you more on that in a second, right?
Oh,
That's all a variable is. And you can name them literally almost anything you want. There are some better ways to name them than others, and I'll get into that in a minute. You don't want to use special characters. You don't want to use keywords to Python. You don't want to use. You want to be as descriptive as possible. You'll see everything online using X and Y and Z. Those are examples. Think of it this way: if you're writing a bank mortgage amortization over time program, you would say, what's your base payment? Base payment is a variable. Interest rate, another variable. Base payment plus interest rate is your total payment. See what I'm saying? You could actually literally write variables that mean what they are. You don't have to use X, Y, and Z. It's actually bad. No. Right. You want to use what they are. So item 1, simple. Let's input. This is going to ask the user. It's literally going to write to the screen. What is the cost of item 1? Question mark. You're also going to learn what a tab is, and you're also going to know what that does, right? But now, work smarter, not harder. 2, 3, item 2, item 3. I like it, right? Let me do something. I might not like it. Cool. So let's just do this for fun. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit F5. And here you go in your shell. This line break right here, I said the hashtag times 60, stored it as a line break. And I said print the line break, which is that line right there. And now I have, what is the cost of item 1 with a dollar sign? And I could be like, 123. What does it cost? 2.22. Cost item 3, 3.21. It's working as designed so far, right? Make sense? Let me type item 2 here. So item 2 is 2.22. Well, there's a command called type, and then you put in your variable name. What type of object is item 2? Well, it's a string. It's not what I wanted. Well, think of it this way. If I put item 2, which is a string, is just a symbol on the keyboard, right? It's a symbol. It has no value. It's a symbol. Item 2 plus 4. I get a traceback, not an error. It's literally a traceback telling you type error. Can only concatenate a string, not integer to string. In other words, I can't add 2 different types of objects together. What does that mean? Well, let me make a var1, and I'll have var1 equal literally 4. Now, when I do a type on var1, the type of object is an integer. Well, what's so funny about input that when I put 1, 2, 3, it turns it into a string? Well, you use help on input, and you say it's a built-in function. Reads in a string from standard input. Son of a gun. We don't want that. We want a float. A float has a decimal place. Well, I mean, How would I do that? Any thoughts? Can you do this? Nested command, hit save, hit F5. What's the cost of item 1? 1.23, 2.22, 2.34, or whatever. Now, item 1. 1, 2, 3. The type of item 1. It's a float. Now I can do things with it. I could add like objects. A float is an integer with decimal places. You can add item 1 plus 4, and now I get 523 with no error. Like objects. So what did we just learn here? Python is an objective scripting language. You're going to hear me say that 10,000 times over the next 8 weeks. Well, what does that mean? Anybody have an idea what that means? It's okay if you don't. I'm here to teach you.
Yeah, I don't.
Cool. I didn't at first either. It took me a long time to learn objective programming because I'm old and I learned regular programming first, which was horrible. Think of an object. Python has built-in objects. It knows what integers are. It knows what floats are. It knows what strings are. There's other objects, but for the first 3 weeks of this course, you're going to focus on floats, integers, and strings. Now, if I do this, var2 equals a variable equals quote 5 quote, and I do the type on var2, it's a string. I wrapped the integer in quotes, removes the value of the 5. It's just the symbol. You're going to get beat up on this a lot. But var3 equals 5. No quotes. Python keeps the value of 5. If I did a type on it.
Who's out there?
Not me. I'm not out there. And the type of var3 is an integer. Python knows what integers, strings, and floats are. Well, now that I have var3 being an integer and an item 1 being a float is nothing more than an integer with decimal places. You can add var3 plus item 1. They're like objects. Separate your mind for a second. Let's talk about what objects are. Python doesn't know what a container is, but you could define one. You could define objects. Now, this is kind of a high level, really advanced topic, but we're going to talk about it. Would you say that this water bottle is a container?
Yeah.
Yeah. Class equals container. Type, water bottle. Full, true or false. Color equals whatever color you want. Lid equals true or false. Okay, so let's talk about that. Container dot color black. Enter. Well, okay, I just created a container that's colors black. Well, I need to store it in something first. So, well, let's call it, I'm not going to do it in real life. This is pseudocode. Let's call it container1 equals class. You don't need to call on it. You can simply call on when you define it, container dot color and black. And I hit enter if I coded some stuff in the background. Then container1 would literally be a new container that's black. You can give it default values for a lid if it's full and all this kinds of stuff. It's like you're creating a 3-dimensional fake object in RAM. Only exists for the duration of your code and only exists while your code's running. Pretty cool. Well,
What is container.color?
So you ever hear something called .NET programming that Microsoft coined? Well, it's a bunch of junk. Well, let's just get into it, I guess. I'll go take it to another step. So we agree that there's a difference between an integer and a string, right?
Yeah, a string is a bunch of characters.
Yeah, or
Typically a
one
quote.
character. A space is a string, right?
It just
So-
has to be in quotes.
Sometimes.
Oh,
No, it usually does. So let's do variable 1 equals test. Literally a test, right? Cool. Now, if I do an ID, you could do an ID on anything. ID on var1, that's its memory allocation in hexadecimal. Well, no, that's just decimal. So that is the memory space of where test the string lives. Now, if I did an ID of var7, which I did not define yet, it says you didn't define it. Did you mean var2? It tries to point you in the right direction when you mess up. So you could do kind of cool stuff. You could check to see if stuff's in memory. You could see if you already defined it. It's sort of cool, right? So you're going to learn a lot about objective programming as you go through this course. Let's flip back over to the group exercise. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like this. I don't like this being bombarded with what's the cost of item number 1. Explain to the user what's going on. Print, and then do a welcome. Not just the word welcome. I'm doing that for brevity, but literally, this is the XYZ calculator. Thank you for downloading my program. Hit enter to go, right? Or answer the following questions. Let them know why they're entering things, right? You can do whatever you like here. This is a fun thing, right? So now that we have all these items and their floats, what do? Well, we got a subtotal. That equals item 1 plus item 2 plus item 3. Cool. Well, there's also a tax issue, right? And that tax is 0.055 for the first one. That's cool. Well, we have our subtotal and our tax. So our true total equals, what do we call it? Subtotal multiply tax. And now we have our total. Now, let's see if that works. I'll just print the total here. You notice I'm not wrapping when I print a string, I wrap it in quotes. When I print a variable, you do not need to wrap it in quotes. But you'll learn about that in lesson 1, right? Hit Control S to save it, hit F5 to run it. Welcome. There's my welcome. Well, first, here's my break line, right? I just put that in there for fun. Then I got my welcome printed. Now it's asking me the cost item 1. Look at that total. What happened? What did I do wrong here?
You have to add the taxed rate that you times the subtotal to the actual total.
So
To the subtotal, I mean.
So that's the tax, and I didn't add it, right?
Correct.
So what I did here is I just did tax, subtotal times tax. This won't be the total. This will be now this is where you can go back and have some fun. You could say cost 3 items, right? That's the cost of 3 items. Well, now you take the cost of 3 items, multiply it by tax to get your sub. Well, not really. This is your tax value. And now this is your tax total. And now your total is really the cost of 3 items You could do this 10,000 different ways. You could name whatever you want to, by the way. And plus tax total. Does that make sense?
I'm freaking out.
And then
No, don't freak out. I'm literally asking the user, what's the cost of item 1? I'm saying 1.23. I'm
Okay.
just making up numbers.
Yeah.
What's the cost of item 2? 2.22. What's the cost of item 3? 3.45. Hit enter. What tax is not defined, so I didn't define it. What did I do wrong here? Tax value. See, it even tells you. Oh, sometimes it tells you the line 36. So right here on line 36, this was broken. You see the line right here where my mouse is?
Yeah.
It'll sort of tell you where you broke it sometimes, right? So that's helpful. Let's resave that again and rerun it. Okay. I'm almost satisfied. Is that right? 7, 8, 6, something. How come it's going like that? Anybody know?
No.
Well, this total tax value, we didn't adhere it to formatting only 2 characters in length. We can, and we will, right? But for now, let's just get this printout right. Your total, I'm going to show you 2 different ways how to do this, is, now you could put this however you like, really. $, and then we'll do that. That's one way of doing it. I'm going to hit F5 again just to run it. So $7, okay, that looks like money, right?
Mhm.
So with Python 3.10, they deployed format strings, print format, which is basically print, quote, a little tiny baby f, and then whatever you want, and then a close quote. So this is the newer way how to use the print function with that little f there. Now, what that does is allows you to do stuff like this. Your total is curly braces total, which is just like calling on your variable, except you call on it between curly braces, so it grabs the value of that variable name as opposed to the name of the variable. And you'll see the both print items here. Now I'm speeding through this, but you got 7 days to do this. There's no need to worry. So you see that they both print out the same value, just 2 different ways to do it. No big deal. Now, how do you format these? Don't worry about that. Read the book. We'll talk about it. There's a lot I don't want to overwhelm everybody in one video, right? There's tons of videos. So here's what I didn't show you. This will kind of take the edge off for everybody in case you're worrying.
Oh, I am worrying.
Don't. In every lesson, I have supplemental videos, and I break out what's pseudocode, basic print help, how to do a new line with escape sequence, PEMDAS, basic math stuff, variables, input, error types, the shebang line. I tried to make a video about everything to be helpful. Does that make sense? And in every lesson, I usually break one out for the key elements of that lesson. It's not necessarily everything covered in that lesson, but the key elements. At the end of the day, here's how easy it is to do the second script. Well, let's pretend we formatted here, and you could add comments to the end of your code too, or anywhere you want, really. Like, still needs formatting, but we'll get to that, right? Well, look how easy it is to write the second script, right? So this is the first one. Here's the second script right here. A family is dining out at a kid-friendly restaurant. Whatever, we're not going to code a kid-friendly restaurant. It doesn't matter, right? Which asks the user to enter the total bill, the cost of the food and drink. then calculate the total bill, including the appropriate tax at 6.5%, then add a tip. Well, here's how easy it is to write another script. You take that, kill this, call this items. What is the cost of item 1? What is the cost of food and drink for all? Right? Now, you got items. You don't need this. Tax value 6.5. Change that. Cost of items. We'll just do items times your value. Total tax value plus items. Now, the only thing we have to do is a tip. Well, cool. Well, I'll just grab this. You're going to learn how to use the home and end key in your keyboard is really good, I think. Tip. What amount of tip? And now your total, we'll call this subtotal. And we'll call this total with tip equals subtotal plus tip. Pretty much done. Let's see. Save it. F5. What is the total cost? 49.56. Enter. How much of a tip? $2, 9 something, 9.58. I'll just say 10 for ease of math. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Figured out the tax. Add the tax. Now, can we print out the tax? Still needs to be formatted. But this is not that bad. It took me way less. I'm going to post this in chat. This took way less of amount of time to write the second script than the first script because we reused some logic. And that's just a fancy word for code or text, right? Let me do save a copy as, and I'll call it group lab, call it what it is. Group lab, lesson 1. I'll put online class. I'll hit save, and I'll post this in chat for everybody. Let's see if this will let me put it in chat. I'll be surprised if it does. See for everyone. Did that post in chat for everybody? Yeah, it looks like it did. Yeah, feel free to download it. It's a group lab starter. So in reality, you could take this group lab, read about the formatting, add formatting, and that's about it. Not too bad. I'm not going to do this every week, but in the beginning, I think it's imperative to, you see how I script and how I code and how I think. Pretend I read the book and I only know the commands I used. Well, let's look at the commands we used. I taught you help, var, right, what variables are, right? So let's just stick with commands. You got print, help, ID, type, input, a little bit of math. That's about it. It's not too bad. Once you learn those tool sets and put them in your pocket, you could rip through this stuff like nobody's business. Now, how does this differ from the individual lab? Well, the individual lab is how many brownies would you like to make? Divide all the ingredients by 9, multiply them back by however many brownies they want, and then print those numbers out to the user. Pretty much kind of a combination of group lab 1 and 2. Not too bad. But that's the layout of the course. It's kind of the tempo of the course. But you got 7 days reality. 7 days to do this, and you can work ahead and ask me questions. I'm here to help. Just relax, take a deep breath, right? This is not detrimental to anyone's career yet. You're learning this. This is a safe environment to learn. You chose the 8-week class. It is a little high pace, but you can do it. I know you can. If you give yourself time to be successful. Realistically, probably 4 hours a week. 4 hours a week total. And you'll succeed in this course. Does that make sense?
Yep, all good on my end.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording. Boop.